Great. Well, good morning. I'm Lee Emmons with Healthy Lincoln County, and I'm joined by today Caroline Ward Nesbitt from Thomaston Public Library. So good morning. Thank you for joining.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me.
Very welcome. I was hoping to ask you a few questions this morning about the pantry process at your library. I think we started working together back in January.
Yes.
So I was hoping you could maybe just give us some background on how that started and the first steps to setting up the pantry you have.
Sure. So you had contacted me back in, like you said, January, from Healthy Lincoln County about this idea of setting up a mini pantry or help yourself shelf here in the library. And it sounded like a fantastic idea to me. I mean, we're well suited to do it because we get a lot of people in who might not feel comfortable going to a traditional food pantry or who, might not feel like they qualify, but could need they could use a little help anyway. So we jumped on board and you set us up with an initial stock up from the food bank, which was fantastic. And it surprised me a bit because that initial stock was gone within 3 days. And that I knew there was a need in our community, but I didn't realize it was that excessive. So we got the word out to our community and people started donating, and yeah, it's really taken off.
Do you have any rules around food access, Caroline, as to who's able to use it, and is there any process involving that?
None whatsoever. In fact, we specifically said in our announcements and on our sign that it is open to everyone. There are no qualifications, no signups, no appointments, nothing like that needed. We don't track who comes in and takes items from the pantry. We're not interested in tracking that information at all, which sometimes feels a little counterintuitive because frequently when we're doing programs like this and we have grants that get us started and that sort of thing, we have to report who's taking advantage of these programs. So that was a little weird at first, but we very quickly came to accept that it was much easier for everybody if we just don't pay any attention to who's coming in and taking items. And we've got a good setup here because we're a library and we have what we call a free room, where we've got a set of shelves that we can put out books that have been donated that we're maybe not adding to the collection, or books that we've removed from the collection because they haven't circulated or anything like that. So we have a free shelf. Most libraries do. So we just took a section of that shelf and turned it into our mini food pantry, our help yourself shelf. And it's a little bit away from our circulation desk. It's right by the entrance from our lobby into the main room of the library. So it's kind of a little bit secluded, not excessively. They don't have to go down a dark corridor or anything scary like that to access it, but it's central enough, but out of direct view of the circulation desk or the main traffic areas in the library.
Sure, no, that makes sense.
It's very, very discreet.
Are there, if someone was to stop in today, or the average kind of work day that you're open, what are the things that they would see or would be able to grab if they needed?
Sure. So we've got typically a lot of non-perishable food items like rice, oatmeal, ready-to-eat meals like ramen, canned soup, Chef Boyardee, SpaghettiOs, that sort of thing, as well as personal care items. We usually try to make sure that we've got toilet paper and period products and maybe shampoo or toothpaste. And we've also asked people for pet care items as well, because that's frequently something that people can't get help with if they have pets and they've fallen on hard times. And as we all know, there's a pet food shortage. If you have pets, there's a pet food shortage. So sometimes the options are a little bit limited. So sometimes we have canned pet food, and antibacterial wipes have been a great thing as well. So there's quite a variety. We've also had people donate socks and hats. We're getting out of hat season now, but blankets. So it's really been a great mix of things, but it's all been needed because it's all gone out.
Yeah, that's kind of leads me to my next question.
Mhm.
Have you been able to establish a pattern as to, how quickly food goes, or are there certain items that move in a couple days versus a week? Have you been able to try and figure that out since you started?
Absolutely. Like I said, we don't track who is coming in and who is going out, but we do kind of keep an idea of what food or what items are going in and out. Things that go fastest are shelf-stable protein items like canned tuna, canned chicken, peanut butter, as well as things that don't require a lot of extra stuff to make, ready-to-eat meals like ramen, like I said, canned soup, particularly kid-friendly stuff like SpaghettiOs, Chef Boyardee, those little microwavable ones. And canned beans are a frequent go-to. That sort of thing has really gone out the fastest. Pasta is always popular, and tomato sauce and the things to make pasta a meal. So definitely things that require minimal effort to turn into a meal and minimal time, I think is probably the bigger issue for folks. So yeah.
Has anything surprised you about starting your pantry, or are there things that you anticipated being a problem back in January that thankfully have not come to pass?
Nothing that I anticipated being a problem. I know some other folks said to me, well, what about vandalism or, people who don't need it taking items from the pantry? And that's just not an issue. We have to assume that anybody who's taking an item needs it for whatever reason, because there's such a stigma about accepting help. Most people aren't going to take something that they don't need. And yeah, it's the only thing that has surprised me, like I said, is that those first couple of weeks we got cleaned out so quickly. That's the only thing that has surprised me. I knew there was a need in our community, but I didn't realize how much of a need. And we have slowed down a little bit, but not too much. We've still seen a pretty steady turnover.
Do you have advice for other libraries in Knox County or other organizations in the Mid-Coast that may have considered this, but for whatever reason didn't take the next step? There are things that you could share with them to kind of get them going?
Sure. So we got the word out to our community that we were doing this, and people really stepped up and have regularly donated items, which is fantastic. So there was a little bit of initial concern about how much work this would involve for our staff. I mean, as everybody is, we're all very busy. We didn't have a lot of time to donate to, another big project, and this has required minimal time on behalf of our staff. We got the word out. I put out a note in our monthly newsletter saying these are the items that we're seeing are going most quickly. So if you have some spare funds, if you maybe have some things in your own pantry that you've decided you don't need, that aren't expired, we would happily take any donations, but these specifically would be great. And people always seem to respond to that. I mean, I'm very grateful to our community for that, but it's required very little time and basically no money from the library itself. I mean, we've got a pretty limited budget, so we knew that was not going to be much of an option for us to be able to support the mini pantry financially, and it hasn't been necessary. So I guess my advice is to just give it a try. I mean, there's no harm in just giving it a try. And the only time that we really have that our staff has had to devote, we cleared out the initial set of our shelves. And then occasionally we'll go out, maybe once a week or so, we'll go out and we'll check expiration dates. And that takes maybe 5 minutes.
Speaking of what people can donate, needed items, people watching this, when they see it, are there things that they could bring in whenever they view it, and if they're so inclined to do that?
Absolutely. We always will take non-perishable food items that are in date. And personal care items are generally in need. So like I said before, shampoo, toothpaste, soap, period products in particular, toilet paper, hand sanitizer, that sort of thing, are always needed. And pet care items are always welcome as well.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate your time this morning, and
Oh,
kind of
thank you.
sharing some information about the pantry. And we,
Mhm.
as the kind of the original sponsor, in a sense, have found it really successful. So
Yeah, I'm
thank
so glad you brought it up to us. This food insecurity is a cause near and dear to our hearts here in the library. So this was a perfect fit. I kind of wish we'd done it before, but I'm glad we did it now. And it's really been very successful.